All right, so let's say you're getting ready for an engraving machine operator interview.
You've got the skills, obviously, or you wouldn't be there.
Right.
But interviews, those can be a whole other thing, right?
Yeah, they're a bit of a different beast.
Yeah, exactly. So we're diving deep into RoleCatcher's insights today to help you totally rock that interview.
Like learning the choreography for a big dance, right?
Mm,
You've got to know the steps, A and D, how to perform them.
perfect analogy. And the cool thing is, RoleCatcher uses serious AI to analyze job descriptions and help tailor your answers.
It's like having a secret weapon. We'll get into that more a bit later.
Okay, love it. Now, RoleCatcher breaks down some of those common interview questions, which is super helpful.
First up, how did you become interested in becoming an engraving machine operator? Seems like a simple one.
It does, but you'd be surprised how many people stumble on it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So what are they really looking for with a question like that?
Passion. They want to hear that you're not just there for a job, you're there for this job.
Okay, so it's about more than just, I'm good with my hands, or something like that.
Way more. Think back. Was there something that sparked your interest in this field? Did you always love those detailed engravings on, old watches? Or maybe a project in shop class got you hooked?
I see, so storytelling is key here.
Storytelling is huge E, but it's got to be genuine. RoleCatcher gives this great example of someone who started out loving graphic design, but then became obsessed with the precision of bringing those designs to life through engraving.
Oh, that's a good one. It connects the dots between a seemingly unrelated interest and the job itself.
Exactly.
So, for our listeners out there, think about what makes your story unique. What got you hooked on engraving?
Yeah, and to take it a step further, think about what excites you specifically about this particular company or role.
Oh, good point. Do your homework.
Right. Maybe they're known for a specific style of engraving you love, or
Yeah.
they do work in an industry you're passionate about.
Okay, that's doing your research. All right, question number 2 on RoleCatcher's list is a bit more technical. What experience do you have operating engraving machines? Time to show off those skills.
And by show off, we mean be specific.
Don't just say, I've used engraving machine.
Oh, exactly. List the types you've worked with, the brands, even specific models if you can.
Okay, so if I've worked with, say, a laser engraver and a mechanical engraver, I'd want to mention both.
Absolutely. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI comes in handy too. It can actually tell you what technologies are most sought after in your field, based on job postings and industry trends.
Oh, wow. So I could potentially walk into the interview knowing exactly what kind of experience they're looking for.
You got it. It's all about giving yourself an edge. But remember, while it's good to highlight relevant skills, honesty is still key.
Of course. Don't exaggerate your experience or claim to be an expert on something you're not.
Exactly. Be authentic, be confident, and be prepared to talk about your experience in detail.
Now, RoleCatcher also talks about quantifying your experience. What does that mean exactly?
It means going beyond just listing tasks and showing the impact of your work.
So instead of saying, I'm good at meeting deadlines, I could say,
In my previous role, I consistently completed engraving projects 10% ahead of schedule while maintaining a 99% quality control rating.
whoa, now that's impressive.
Right. Numbers speak volumes. Instead of just saying, I can cook, you're saying, I can cook Michelin star-worthy meals that will blow your mind.
Okay, now I'm hungry,
Yeah.
but I get your point. So how do we figure out how to quantify our own experiences?
Well, think about the results you've achieved in past roles. Did you improve efficiency, reduce errors, master a new technique ahead of schedule?
I see. So before my interview, I should take some time to reflect on my accomplishments and think about how they demonstrate my skills.
Exactly. And here's a little insider tip. Use RoleCatcher's AI to analyze your resume.
Oh, good idea.
It can actually suggest ways to quantify your achievements and make them really stand out to potential employers.
That's amazing. This is why we love RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep this momentum going with question number 3. How do you ensure the quality of the final product when operating an engraving machine?
This one's all about attention to detail.
So it's not enough to just say, I make sure it looks good.
Right. They want to hear about your process. Do you have a checklist you run through before you even start engraving?
Okay, so having a system in place is important.
Absolutely. Walk them through your steps. How do you inspect your work during the engraving process? What about afterwards?
And it's okay to get a little technical here, right? Talk about the tools you use for quality control.
Exactly. Calipers, micrometers, whatever's relevant to your work. RoleCatcher also suggests mentioning specific software if you've used it for quality assurance.
That makes sense. Now, for our listener, I think a good follow-up question to ponder here is, What's your approach to catching potential errors before they even become a problem?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because nobody's perfect.
Right.
But being able to anticipate and prevent mistakes is a valuable skill in any field, especially one as precise as engraving.
Absolutely. It shows you're proactive and thinking ahead. Prevention is always better than a cure, especially when you're talking about something as intricate as engraving. And, sometimes those little mistakes happen no matter how careful we are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which leads us perfectly to the next question RoleCatcher brings up. How do you troubleshoot issues that arise while operating an engraving machine?
Because, let's be real, machines can be kind of finicky.
They have a mind of their own sometimes.
Totally. So how do we show those interviewers that we can handle it when things go wrong?
It's all about demonstrating your problem-solving process. So that error message pops up, right? What's your first step? Do you check the manual? Run diagnostics.
I see. So it's about having a system, even when things feel chaotic.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get specific here. Mention any troubleshooting techniques you're familiar with. RoleCatcher's AI is actually super helpful for this. It can analyze common error codes for different machine models.
Wait, seriously? So I could potentially walk into the interview knowing how to fix their most frequent engraving hiccups.
You got it. Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
But even if you don't have all the answers, what they really want to see is that you can think critically and find solutions.
Right. So it's okay to say, I'd start by isolating the problem, then maybe consult the manufacturer's guideline.
Exactly.
And if I'm still stuck, I'd escalate it to someone with more experience.
There you go. It's about showing them you're resourceful and know when to call in the cavalry.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, for our listener, I think a good question to ponder after this is, what's a tricky technical issue you faced before, even if it wasn't specifically with an engraving machine?
Ooh, good one.
How did you approach it? How did you solve it?
Because it shows you can think on your feet, you're adaptable.
Exactly. And speaking of thinking ahead, the next question RoleCatcher highlights is super important. What safety measures do you take when operating an engraving machine?
Safety first, always.
This isn't just about acing the interview. It's about, protecting yourself and others on the job.
Absolutely. And this is where you demonstrate that you're not just skilled, you're responsible.
Okay, so walk me through this. What are some key things to mention here?
Well, go beyond just the basics, Mention specific personal protective equipment or PPE that you'd use.
Like safety glasses, gloves?
Exactly. Maybe even a respirator, depending on the materials you're working with.
Right. Good point. And does RoleCatcher's AI come in handy here too?
It does.
Yeah.
It can actually give you insights into what safety protocols are standard for different industries or even specific companies.
So, for example, if I know that this company requires hearing protection for a certain type of engraving.
That's a huge plus. It shows you've done your research, you're taking it seriously.
Okay, that's really helpful. Now, for those who are listening, I think a good takeaway here is to think about any additional safety certifications you could pursue, right?
Absolutely.
Because it shows a commitment to safety, which is never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing. It makes you a more competitive candidate, shows you're invested in your own well-being and the well-being of those around you.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears a bit here. RoleCatcher's next question is all about staying ahead of the curve. How do you stay up to date with the latest engraving techniques and technologies?
Because this field's constantly evolving, isn't it?
It is. New machines, software, materials.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you even keep up?
Right. And employers, they want to see that you're proactive about your professional development.
So what are some good ways to show them that? Besides listening to this deep dive, obviously.
Well, this is where your passion for engraving can really shine. Do you follow any industry blogs, podcasts?
Oh, what about those online courses and webinars? There's so many of those now.
Tons. And they can be incredibly valuable. RoleCatcher's AI can even suggest relevant courses based on the specific skills you need for different job openings.
Whoa, so it's like having a personalized learning plan, just for my career goals.
Pretty much.
That's amazing. So, not only can RoleCatcher help tailor my answers, it can actually help me level up my skills. Okay, I'm sold. Now, for our listener who's feeling ambitious, a good follow-up question to ponder might be, what's a recent development in engraving technology that's got you particularly excited?
Ooh, I like that.
Because it shows you're not just keeping up, you're actually engaged in the evolution of your field.
And that you're curious and passionate.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to something that I think a lot of people struggle with, myself included. Time management.
Ah, yes.
RoleCatcher's next question hits on that. How do you manage your time when working on multiple engraving projects at once?
Because in this line of work, multitasking is key,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Juggling deadlines, materials, client expectations, it can get a little crazy.
It can. And this question is all about showing them how you stay organized and prioritize tasks.
So what are some good strategies to highlight here?
Well, think about the tools you use. Do you rely on a physical planner, project management software,
I'm a big fan of to-do lists myself.
whatever works for you? RoleCatcher's AI can be helpful here too, by the way. It can actually analyze company profiles and suggest what tools are commonly used in their workflow.
So if I can mention that I'm comfortable using a specific software that aligns with their preferred methods, that's a good sign.
It definitely shows you'd be a good fit for their team. But beyond the tools, talk about your process.
Like, how do I break down a complex project into smaller, manageable tasks?
Exactly. Do you have a system for tracking deadlines? How do you handle unexpected delays?
And it's okay to be honest here, and if time management is something I'm like actively working on, I can say that.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is valuable. It shows you're willing to learn and grow.
And who knows, maybe they have some amazing time management tips they can share.
There you go. Always be open to learning.
Now, for our listener who thrives in a fast-paced environment, a good follow-up thought might be, what's your secret sauce for quickly adapting to shifting priorities or those unexpected project changes?
Ooh, that's a good one, because those always pop up, don't they?
Always. Flexibility is key in any production environment, I think.
100%. Okay, let's shift our focus now from internal processes to something equally important, customer satisfaction.
Because at the end of the day, happy customers are everything, right?
They're the lifeblood of any business.
Exactly. So RoleCatcher's next question is all about that. How do you ensure that you are meeting the expectations of clients or customers when engraving a product?
This one is all about communication and that customer-centric mindset.
Because sometimes what we think the client wants and what they actually want are two totally different things.
Oh, tell me about it.
So how do we make sure everyone's on the same page from the start?
Well, when you answer this question, emphasize how you prioritize clear communication right from the get-go. Do you ask clarifying questions to really understand their vision? Do you provide mock-ups or samples for approval?
Those are good ideas.
Yeah.
And what about those inevitable moments when, despite our best efforts, revisions are needed?
Ah, yes. Well, that's where your ability to handle feedback gracefully comes in. Highlight how you view revisions not as setbacks, but as opportunities.
Opportunities to, what, improve?
Exactly. To refine and perfect the final product, maybe even strengthen the client relationship.
I like that. Because sometimes a little back and forth can actually lead to an even better outcome in the end. Now, for our listeners, a really good follow-up question to ponder here might be, how would you handle a situation where a client wasn't happy with the final engraved product, even after you'd taken all the necessary steps?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
It really tests your problem-solving and people skills.
Totally. But being able to navigate those tricky situations calmly and professionally, that's invaluable.
It really is, and it shows a lot about your character. It really is, and it shows a lot about your character, how you handle those tough conversations.
Exactly. Because, let's be real, not every client interaction is going to be smooth sailing.
Unfortunately not, no.
But speaking of navigating challenges, RoleCatcher's next question is all about rolling with the punches. How do you handle unexpected changes or revisions to an engraving project?
Because those always pop up, don't they?
Always. It's like clockwork. The deadline shifts, the materials are back-ordered, the client had a sudden flash of inspiration.
It's all part of the creative process, right?
Right. But seriously, how do we show those interviewers that we can handle those curveballs without, completely losing it?
Well, it's all about demonstrating adaptability. When you answer this question, focus on your process for incorporating changes without compromising the quality or the timeline.
Okay, so instead of saying I'd probably panic, I could say something like, my first step would be to assess how this change impacts the overall project.
Exactly.
And then I'd explore potential solutions with the client or the team.
Perfect. That shows you're solution-oriented, that you can think on your feet. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can be super helpful here too.
Oh, right, because it's analyzed like a bazillion similar scenarios.
Exactly, and it can offer strategies that have worked well in the past.
It's like having a vault of best practices right at your fingertips.
Precisely. All right, we're on to the final question RoleCatcher highlights, and it's a crucial one.
Okay, hit me with it.
How do you ensure that the engraving machine is properly maintained and serviced?
Keeping those machines happy. because a happy machine is a productive machine.
100%. So when you answer this, be specific. Don't just say, I keep it clean.
Right, right.
Talk about your process. Do you follow a regular cleaning schedule? Do you know how to replace common wear and tear parts?
Oh, and what about those preventative maintenance checks? Catching those little issues before they become big, expensive problems.
Huge bonus points for mentioning those. It shows you're proactive, that you understand downtime can be a real killer in this industry.
Totally. Now, I'm guessing RoleCatcher's AI can offer some insights here, too.
You bet. It can actually provide insights into specific maintenance protocols used by different companies, or even for particular machine models.
Okay, so if I can walk into that interview knowing their preferred brand of lubricant or the recommended inspection schedule for their machines,
Game over. You're hired.
right, it's like, I'm here for it, I'm ready to go.
Exactly. It shows you've done your research, you're serious about hitting the ground running.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground today.
Oh.
From storytelling to troubleshooting to AI-powered interview prep, it's been quite a deep dive.
It has.
So as we wrap up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners out there who are gearing up for an engraving machine operator interview?
I think it comes down to this. Preparation breeds confidence.
Love that.
By understanding the questions, crafting strong answers, and using tools like RoleCatcher to really tailor your approach.
You're setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely.
While those technical skills are essential, don't forget to let your passion shine through.
100%. Interviewers want to see that you're not just qualified for the job, but that you're genuinely excited about the work.
Enthusiasm is contagious, after all.
It really is. It can make all the difference in a competitive job market.
So, to all our listeners out there, good luck with those interviews.
Yeah.
You've got this.
We believe in you.